conservative voice in our Utah State Legislature, and I'm grateful for the opportunity you've given me to be your state representative. Today, for just a second, I'd like to report on my actions and be held accountable to you for the votes I've placed. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Let me begin by stating that one of the most important and rewarding responsibilities that a state representative has is to listen to individual constituents. And since taking office, like all legislators, I've taken thousands of phone calls and emails and text messages. And it's been very rewarding to be able to help individuals across our state resolve some of those issues that they've had. I want to tell you about two in particular. The first, one of our local physicians, someone here in our valley, called me in a panic a few weeks ago because a Medicaid provider or a Medicaid vendor was withholding some $50,000 from him. He sent letters to all over the state. He made phone calls, but to no avail. And that's why he called me, and it became my opportunity to intervene. I helped him hook up with the right folks at the state. And fortunately, we stopped them from those violations, and he's received his $50,000 that he was rightfully owed from this Medicaid vendor. I also had one here in our own Hyde Park. This family had hired a contractor to put in a new roof for them, the shingles. Well, they got about 3/4 of the way done, and they didn't come back. And so he called and called and called. They did everything they could to try to get this vendor to finish up the job, and they never did. He reached out to me. Within just a matter of days, the roof was completed. Now, when it comes to voting, you know I'm very conservative, and I'm proud to be conservative. I don't compromise. I voted the way I promised you I would vote. I voted to reduce income taxes by over $1.3 billion. I voted to make sure that electricity keeps flowing to Utah citizens. I voted to expand your Second Amendment gun rights. I voted to defend our youth against the indoctrination of critical race theory. I voted in opposition to the Major League Baseball park and to the National Hockey Stadium. And I voted to protect our girls who had boys who wanted to compete with them on the field and against men who wanted to be in their restrooms. Sometimes I had to stand alone or be one of the very few no votes. And it can be tiring and difficult. My colleagues in the State House will tell you I'm not a yes man. I'm not beholden to anybody. I voted no on more bills, I think, than any representative in our legislature. I do that because they don't coincide with our shared Republican values, the values we find in our Constitution, in our party platform. And I promise you here and now I'm going to continue, and I'm always willing to stand alone on those votes. But I don't always vote no. I want to tell you about a few bills that I've proposed and passed. I sponsored legislation to protect your private property rights. I've sponsored legislation to enhance our election integrity. I've sponsored legislation that puts an end to an irresponsible rule that said that counselors could only affirm children who were struggling with same-sex gender issues and transgender issues. We put a stop to that. In the last session, I sponsored legislation, and it passed, to put the Ten Commandments back in our school curriculum. And finally, I sponsored legislation that protects the rights of conscience for state employees. Now, some people talk about compromise. They want us to work across the aisle. The Democrat Party and others are taking us places that are hard to recognize. That aisle gets wider and wider. And to reach across that aisle, I'd have to go a really long arm, or I'd have to just step over to that other side. But I promised I wouldn't do that, and I promise you again today, I'm not going to do that. I am a conservative. I'm proud to have that capital R next to my name. Our founding documents and our party platform don't divide us. They describe our common principles and the values that make it possible for all of us Utahns to enjoy life, liberty, and happiness. Those principles that are rooted in the Declaration, in the Constitution, our party platform, our faith, principles that more and more today are considered out of date and negotiable. These are principles that led our forefathers to this state and to this valley, that make our state blossom like a rose. Thank you for being a delegate on behalf of your neighborhood. Thank you for allowing me to be your representative. My name is Mike Peterson. I'm the only Republican endorsed candidate for House District 2, and I ask for your support.